Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Believe in Tennessee Football. I'm your host, as always, Kyler Curvison, joined with Reed Bacon. Have another amazing podcast for you. We break down the full Georgia game, what we saw that was good out of the offense and bad, really how we rated Hendon's performance overall, and the defense. Really, what are the expectations going into the game and how they performed from those expectations, and what good things we saw out of them, and how confident we feel going into the rest of the season into South Alabama and what this team is going to look like. So another great podcast. Let's jump into it.
The game. Snap. The kick is in the air, and the kick this time is no, sir-ree. No, sir-ree. Final score, Tennessee 20, Florida 17. Pandemonium reigns.
Loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Caught it by Tennessee, Jawan Jennings. Jennings makes the catch in the end zone on the Hail Mary.
Down at the 35, to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. What did he do? All he did was score. Joey Pence, touchdown on play number 1.
So, before we get into the show, got to shout out our number one sponsor, betonline.ag. They're the best place to go if you're betting on anything. Football season in full swing right now, college and NFL. We got basketball starting up. You got baseball getting into the playoffs. We're now into the World Series. So anything you need to bet on, BetOnline has it. All the odds, all the stats, all the news that you could think of. So if you're going to make a thing more exciting, like a game, BetOnline is where you need to go. So if you go to their updated website or use your mobile device to sign up, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus when you use the code BELIEVE50. So remember, BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive that 50% welcome bonus and just have some more fun when you're watching these games. betonline.ag. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Another amazing episode of Believe in Tennessee Football. I guess I'll start it off as I always do, and most people will probably be annoyed at Reed like they usually are because he's eating again. But Reed, how are we doing, bud?
Man, yeah, I'm doing well. I thought about you, and last night I wanted to call you so bad, and I sent out a text or a tweet on the Twitter or the podcast tweet or
Twitter
podcast account. Sorry, and I said I think this is just the worst game that we played: offense, defense, special teams, coaching, all that. And I really thought that. Well, then I watched the game today, and I was like, man, Kyler's right. It's never as bad as you think it is. And then the days that you think you're a baller, you're like, man, I really missed that. Or, man, I could have done that. Or, I'm telling you, I know you're probably the same way, and I know a lot of athletes are the same way. You can go, 15 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss and a sack and a PBU, and you're like, but I should have had 18 tackles,
Yeah.
or like.
Well, that was literally going to be my first question before we got into anything, breaking down anything. It's going to go, all right, now how do you feel about your tweet? Because Reed's the one who tweets from our account. And I was like, all right, now how do you feel about it now that you watched the film? Because just like you said, never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think.
Yeah, and it really was so true. So first off, we're going to give the people what they really want. Tonight's menu is breakfast for dinner. So I have bacon, I got 2 pieces of toast, I got some eggs, 4 eggs, and then one thing that people should always start doing is I like to go.
Protein there, 4 eggs.
Yeah, well, duh, bro. I'm always about the protein, but I like going 1 glass of milk, 1 glass of orange juice. It's something I started doing a couple years ago, and it's a wise decision.
Honestly, that might be the most controversial thing we've ever said in this podcast.
Why?
I just feel like people are going to be in the comments like, what a freak this guy is doing orange juice and milk.
Oh, well, they're clowns because it's great. And by the way, sorry for the hair all messed up. I took my afternoon nap today after my Titans win. And I didn't want to really wear a hat. So anyways, let's jump to it. I really do want to hear when I sent that tweet out where you're like, I don't know about that. Like, I'm not sure, but let's go ahead and hear what you're thinking about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that tweet and I was like, I cannot wait until Reed watches the game again and then goes, oh, okay. And even my wife said something to me. She goes, Did you see what Reed tweeted on the main account? Like they played their worst game, and looked at me and I go, yeah, I know. It's okay.
Okay, first off,
Reed overreacts sometimes.
All right, okay, calm down. First off, lovely Brienne does not need to be judging me. She needs to follow the account and support the account, not always peeking and watching and see what I'm doing, but not giving us tweets and stuff or the likes.
Hey, listen, my wife is not a social media expert. Brienne, if she liked and retweeted your whatever tweet you had, you'd get 5 other people, and it would be all of my family members.
That's 5 more than we have.
Yeah, and she said that it was hilarious when you said you were going to fire me like a month ago. So she supports. Also, it's not just giving Reed a hard time, but I did know that sometimes Reed can get kind of emotional.
Well, I did fire you. Luckily for you, you're a friend, so nepotism in a way that I hired you back.
Nepotism?
But you know what's funny? Not because we're talking about this, but I was going to retweet out tonight and be like, "Hey guys, we just did the pod. I rewatched the game. Like, come and listen because it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was." But come on, I want to hear what you got to say. Like,
okay.
Start getting in the game for me.
Okay. As we always do, offense first, because offense wins championships. Fuck defense. I was
By the way, I hope you really don't think that because that's not true.
I don't think that. I'm just biased towards it because that's what I played mostly. I think defense is a lot more fun than offense is by far. But I was disappointed in the offense after watching it twice. I think Hendon had his worst game that he's had. I mean, I've never watched his Virginia Tech games, but talk about missing on crucial moments. That happened to Hendon in this game. And that is not something I expected out of him. He's been on such a hot streak that I really thought he would continue this. He would be smart with the ball and be able to, let our offense run correctly and convert those third downs that we needed and not have those overthrows and that interception. And people don't realize how it is. The quarterback position is so important. Like, you can have everyone else playing to their highest potential, but if your quarterback's not there, it's just not going to happen. It will not happen for you. But to say that, when I think back on last week's podcast and the teaching points I talked about for Hooker, which was, hey, I don't think this guy knows how to get rid of the ball. Like, I think it's I have to throw it or I have to run it, and what ends up happening is he takes sacks. There were times this game where he just threw away the ball and didn't take the sack, which I like that. I like the fact that he adjusted. But he did it once on a 4th down, and it's like,
yeah, that's
not the time to do it. I understand what you're thinking, but on that down, just throw a 50-50 ball up. It's 4th down. So it's
Yeah, glad you brought that up because I was just about to say that. And let me ask you this. Did you think it was an overthrow in the end zone when we did the double slants? Did you think that was an overthrow or him getting rid of it?
I think it was him getting rid of it because the reason why is because he was so overthrown. It wasn't like it was just high in the back of the end zone, because that is a teaching point for quarterbacks to throw it high in the back of the end zone. That's a place where only your guy can get the ball and doesn't let the defense get to it. So it wasn't just that. It was legit out of the I mean, like, I don't even know where, like, literally I wrote down in my notes after just like watching him. I was like, was he hurt? Was like his hand hurting him? Like, what was happening? Because he also had that weird overthrow versus Kentucky where I don't know if he's just gripping the ball hard as hell and it's making it like slip out of his hands or something. But like, I thought at least he could have tried to fit it in on those double slants, and maybe we got a catch, maybe it's an incompletion, but whatever. It's at least it's not, thrown out of the back of the end zone. But I mean, the game, going into it, I never thought like, oh, we're going to beat Georgia. I was like, it would be really nice if we do. I said it in last week's podcast, I'll be very happy if we score 20 points. We scored 17. But like the second quarter is really what solidified the game. And that second quarter was all on Hendon. That was all on him. It was third down overthrows, just missing open guys. It's not like they were covered really well and, it was very hard to fit it into the zone. It was interception that he really doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's had 3 this year, but that's a costly one. And just like making those decisions like that fourth down we just talked about, that really, I mean, you just set your team back so far that it's hard to make up for that. And it just really sucks that he had his worst game versus the best defense in the country. And I think, like, I literally think if Hendon would have had a better game, if he would have completed those passes, not thrown the interception, like, this is a lot closer of a game. I think we get over 20 points scoring, because we had 2 long drives in the second half, got down into the red zone, and it was a turnover on downs because we went for it on fourth down because we were behind so much. So if you think of it in that, like, if we weren't behind so much, maybe we kick field goals, and we get points out of it. It's just once you do get behind, you play a different style of football, and that makes it to where you're going to go for it on the fourth downs. You're not going to take the points, and it's like, we could have had moral victories and had 6 more points at least. Set really 9 more points, I think, at least. And, been able to say, hey, we scored a lot more points than anybody else did on this defense all year. But that's not really what you're looking for at that moment. So I think that's like my overarching theme is I'm putting it on Hooker that he's the reason we weren't able to make it a closer game, because I never really thought, oh, we're definitely going to win this game. I just thought maybe we can make it like Alabama and it be a 7-point game in the fourth quarter.
One more question for you, and then I'll jump in. What's your opinion now of Georgia, that you watched them play Tennessee and probably watched them? You may have watched another full game of them this year at some point, but what's your overall opinion of them? And what do you think of them going forward with Stetson Bennett at the helm?
My overarching theme of them, they are a very good team. They are the number 1 team in the nation for a reason. And I think their defense is good. I think they're opportunistic, though. I don't think it's necessarily, hey, we're just smothering and there's nothing you can ever do and there's nothing you can take advantage of because our corners are locked down guys, man-to-man coverage, and our linebackers are hard hitters and fill the holes, and our defensive line are the best in the world. Like, I think it's, hey, we have a good pass rush. We blitz at the right times. Our linebackers are coached on how to beat running backs in pass pro, which I don't think enough teams teach both ways. I don't think enough teams teach linebackers how to get off blocks of running backs, and I don't think enough teams teach running backs how to block blitzing linebackers, because it's something that multiple teams struggle with and we struggle with. But I think they take advantage of that on the blitzes. I think their pass rush is very good. I don't really know if their DBs are that good. I thought we were able to take advantage of them. Tillman had 200 yards receiving on this stout defense, and it's just like, there are things you can take advantage of. They're not absolute world beaters. And like I said, the reason why we stalled out in the second quarter wasn't because of their defense. Overthrow by Hendon, interception, overthrows on third downs, he's not completing balls. Like, that is the reason for it. It has nothing to do with them playing blanket coverage or them getting so much pressure in Hendon's face. And I think their offense is just methodical. I think they're dependent on the run game. They're dependent on very talented wide receivers, because this was one of the games where they threw the most, and they threw 29 times. It was like the most they've ever thrown this year. I think Stetson Bennett is a fine quarterback. I don't think he's out of this world, but he does what he needs to do. Revert to the Titans. You never think Ryan Tannehill is Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or even like a Josh Allen. You just don't see that much talent out of him. But guess what? Dude freaking wins. And he does what he needs to do when he's called upon. He makes the throws when he's called upon. But he can't sling it, no look, sidearm like Patrick Mahomes, and he can't make those Hail Mary throws like Aaron Rodgers. He can't just absolutely control an offense and call an audible on a blitz and understand exactly what's going on and everything like Tom Brady. It's just being consistent, and when your number is called, he shows up, and he's sneaky athletic. And that's exactly how Stetson Bennett is. Sneaky athletic. Never thought he would be able to really run like he did versus us. And that, I think, was the same thing going through some of our defensive players' minds. This is like, this is not a runner. Like, we don't have to worry about him because he's a little white dude back there. But, yeah, he just juked your ass out, Flowers. So you got to pay attention to him. The way I always feel is that anyone can win on any day, because it's proven that anyone can win. Kansas just beat Texas. Like, the Washington football team just beat the Tampa Bay Bucks this week. Like, the Panthers were just killing the Cardinals. Like, the Jaguars beat the Bills last week. This is football. Anything can happen on any day. Texas A&M beat Alabama earlier in the year. So that's where I never think a team is unbeatable. But I do think Georgia is the number one team in the nation, and it's obvious, and I don't think anybody else is where they are at this moment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm about to start chatting here. Okay, couple things to go off where you're going. I agree that I do not think that defense is what I thought they were, meaning I don't think they're Alabama of 2010 or 2011, whatever that year was, or LSU of 2010, 2011. They're really good, but they're not in the Madden 99 club like those other teams were. You know, they're probably 94, 95. So good. And I think, like you said, opportunistic. I'm very, very excited for the SEC championship to watch them play Bama. Stetson Bennett is, I don't like you throwing shade at Ryan Tannehill because he doesn't get enough credit, but I get the comparison. But Stetson, to me, like, I wanted to say, yeah, he's a little bit better than I expected, but then he still had some of his missed throws that like you just can't miss. But he did enough to win the game and win the game pretty easily against a 20-point underdog. Mm-hmm. And so I still don't know how I feel about Georgia just yet. Like I said, their defense isn't as great as I thought it was going to be, but I was expecting just all-time great from how people talk about them and what they've done.
You're thinking 85 Bears when we're going into this.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I said, some of those Bama or LSU teams. So to say that, now let me jump into kind of some of the other stuff, my overarching, before we both get into offensive plays. I know you're not going to like this. I didn't love the black jerseys yesterday. I don't know why. Like, the game just came on, and I was like, I think I would rather just see us in orange and white or all orange. Like, I don't know why, but I just wasn't feeling it. And I don't
disagree with that. I think sometimes it is thrown out more than it needs to be. I think that happened when we had the gray jerseys, that it was like, hey, let's throw it out when we're playing Vandy, or let's throw it out when we're in the bowl game. And it's like, I mean, like, I like the gray jerseys, but I think they need to be an important thing.
See, in him pulling them out already again, I think we're going to see them pretty often with him, because they're just for recruiting purposes and stuff like that. So I think they're going to make the all whites, the whites with orange, the all orange, the orange with white pants, and black. Like, they're all going to just kind of be mixed in there. Like, going forward, I'm not going to be surprised if we see the blacks, twice a year. I don't really see 3 times a year, but maybe. But I still do like I personally like the grays better than the black because of the helmet situation. And I just think the grays looked pretty good, and the smoky gray was a cool way to kind of tie that in. But yeah, I just turned the TV on and I was like, I was playing Xbox with some buddies on Thursday night, and they're like, hey, we're wearing black this weekend. And I was like, are we? And he's like, well, they just tweeted it out. And I went to the UT thing, and it was 2 hours earlier that day. I was like, dang, I didn't even hear it. So it wasn't the pub that it had been the last time we had done it, but I don't know. Anyways, I just didn't love it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were a ton of recruits there this weekend on visits, and it was kind of like hey, look at us.
Right. And I understand that. And that's one of the things I thought about.
It's part of the game. It's part of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying I'm saying I still think the orange or the all orange would have looked swaggy or whatever. But, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted this game to be close, was all for recruiting purposes. I never thought that we were going to have a chance to win. I should have given this team more credit. I was excited for the game, but I was just kind of people were asking me what I thought the score was going to be. And I said, I think it's going to be 41-42 to probably 20. So, I mean, it was kind of what I've expected. But it was more of a slow death than I expected. I thought, well, no, I would say that's probably about what I expected, kind of that slow, methodical death. And I was hoping for keep it in, and then they start pulling away in a quick fashion. It's they score, then we turn it over, on downs. And then you see what I'm saying? Kind of like that Bama or Florida, where it's just kind of wow, they just hit us and we just looked up and it's over, compared to that, oh, we still have a chance, kind of, and then we still have a chance and we're just not making the plays.
I wish we would have scored the second touchdown in the third quarter, not the fourth quarter.
Correct. Yes. And so, yeah, I just wanted to be a good game because I know there was a lot of recruits there, and I wanted them to be able to, I was thinking about it when I was so what does Heupel go and say to these guys? Hey, obviously we're still a ways away. We need guys like you to come to close the gap. Because we already have the amazing facilities, and they're going to be doing even more. And we already have a great fan base. And so it's these kids, I'm assuming, want to win. And so it's they're sitting there watching Georgia. And if we're battling with Georgia for a few of these guys, I'm thinking, what are we different that they're not going to go to Georgia for? And it's always tough for me to talk about recruiting because me personally, I just like to win. So I always think back, if I was in high school when I was coming out and I was a guy like you, I probably would have gone to Tennessee because I'm a Tennessee kid. But and I love and bleed it. But if you would put me in Nashville, and I had grown up in Nashville and maybe wasn't a big of a Tennessee fan, your boy's in state, and I'm not going to Tennessee under Dooley or under, I guess it was Kiffin and Dooley at that time, that changeover. But like I would have gone to Bama, or I would have gone, like, I just want to win. Like for me, you put so much in to football, like the hours, the hard work. Like for me, the payoff is winning. And so I was just thinking, I was like, what is Heupel telling these guys? And I was like, well, hopefully he's just got his McDonald's bags ready to rock and roll, and he's just smarter about it. But, or he's calling up all of our big time companies around here for these NIL deals. But, I don't know. Let's go ahead. I want to hear some of your offensive plays, and then I'll jump into my offensive plays. But those are just some of the kind of the overarching things I was thinking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll literally just go down the list, and this is kind of chronological as you go through the game. The option play on third down was like our first drive where
the option shuttle pass.
Yeah, where running back's to the right of Hendon, he takes off to the left, and Small just goes up in that crack to say, like, here, you can shovel it to me. You see Hendon sitting there looking at him. He can. Defensive end, comes down on Small, so he doesn't have that option. He immediately looks up, and I think it's Peyton that's just like sitting there waiting on the line of scrimmage, like waiting for the ball. I just thought that was such a cool play design that, okay, it's an option play, but it's not in the typical sense where I have the shovel. I can also throw it out to him, or I can run it myself. So it's just something that I thought was very interesting, very cool play. And that's the kind of stuff that really makes me like Heupel a lot when I see that kind of stuff that you don't necessarily see all the time. Our first touchdown, I thought that was a great play design, great play fake, Hendon rolling out to his dominant side, being able to get rid of the ball to Velus, having Velus be he's man coverage on a guy who is also having to play the run, which gives Velus that extra step on him and makes it to where he is open. So
it was basically like the same thing that we were talking about last week, where they did it with Princeton Fant, and this time they did it with Velus, and it was a better throw. But I loved it too. I love the play call.
Exactly. I love that play call. What else did I have? I had a great Fant block, which I will put in the YouTube like I do with every other play. But now that I, saw the block by Jacob Warren last week, and I'm like, you know what? I need to start looking for these kind of plays where it maybe people don't notice it when it happens, but it's something where it's like, dude, this guy is bringing the wood versus these dudes. And there was a run.
Him and Cooper pulled out, and I
believe it was in the second quarter. Fant's lead blocker, Jabari bounces it outsides right behind him, and he just absolutely sticks the linebacker and just puts him on his back.
It was sick. It was sick.
Amazing block. I freaking love it. I love to see that. That's the kind of shit that gets me hype as hell. When somebody can run over somebody else.
I'll be honest, I cannot believe I missed the Jacob Warren block last week, because if I had seen that, I would have been like you were like, oh, whoa, wow. I would have been like, let's eat, boy. Come on now. I would have been juiced.
Yeah.
So It was sick. It was a great block. It was absolutely phenomenal block.
It was phenomenal. I think there's something about Keaton that I don't think he's that fast. I think he's I have to get my stride going to get fast, but throwing him a tunnel screen, he isn't the right person to get a tunnel screen. You understand what I'm saying? He isn't the one to stick his foot in the ground and turn and get 8 to 10 yards.
I'll disagree with you. I thought he did fine, but good, continue.
I mean, I thought he did fine, but I thought in the moment, watching that tunnel screen, watching it again, I thought if Velus catches that ball, it's a better play.
I might not disagree with you there, but I still thought Ramel Keaton played fine. I really did. He didn't catch it, and I wasn't like, WTF, like, why are we wasting a play to him? So it wasn't that bad. Now, like, sure, I could be like, well, yeah, I'd rather have Tyreek Hill catch it. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. But I still thought it was fine. I did not think it was I didn't think it was a bad play or a worthless play.
Okay. I don't think that Keaton is a bad player or that he shouldn't get the ball. Just in that moment, I was like, someone is better fit for this screen. And that's the way I think about offensive plays is like, who needs to get in the ball in this certain situation? Like, if we're on the goal line and you're throwing a jump ball to Jalen Hyatt instead of Cedric Tillman, you're an idiot. Like, that's just – and that's not because Jalen Hyatt's a bad player. It's because Cedric Tillman's that much better at jump balls. So, like,
well, let me ask you this.
That's where I'm at when I'm seeing that play.
Well, let me ask you this, though. What about if it's matchups, though, on that jump ball? Like, I mean, you're still – what if –
Okay.
Okay.
I don't care about the corners. I really don't. Like, there are only a few guys that are really like, this is a scary guy to throw to out there. I'm okay.
Okay.
I trust my guy more. The freaking double pass where Hendon goes under center, and they made a good point on the broadcast to say, like, hey, this is abnormal. So this is obviously something different, which I would automatically think if I was a defensive player, we don't even go under center near the goal line. So if I go under center, something's going on. So that tips it. But Jalen Hyatt has to go up for the ball and reach for the ball. What happened on the play is he gets thrown to him, and instead of going up with two hands, making that nice triangle and reaching up above his head, he comes like this and tries to cradle it in while the DB over top of him goes up with hand and knocks the ball away. So it's in that instance, teaching point, right? Coaching point, go up and get that ball, fight for that thing. That, like, dreams, goals, and aspirations. That's what that ball is. Go up and get it. Don't let somebody else bully you out of getting that ball. And that was a definite 50-50 throw. That's exactly what it was because the DB made a good play. The safety, sorry, I dropped my notepad, my notes. The safety made a good play and came over and was able to defend on him. But, like, that little stuff will drive someone crazy. The 10 other guys on offense were like, I did my job, and I did that play to perfection, and it's a trick play, and it's hard to set up, and it's hard to do, and you didn't do the right thing when you're going up to catch it. Like, that'll drive your other offensive players crazy because they're setting it up for you. That, like, especially offensive linemen, we don't get anything out of it. We're setting things up for you to catch it.
I think this is such a former player to fan thing because you're talking about this play and kind of going in depth, and I'm like, hey, yeah, he went up for the ball, he didn't get it right. Like, and I get, like, yeah, I would have rather him go up to attack the rebound compared to catch it in the cradle. But I'm like, I was happy we ran it. It didn't work. I'm moving on to the next. But it's just so funny to hear you because you're like, as a lineman, you'd be, if you're out there, you're like, what are we doing? Now, let me ask you this, though. We went under center for one reason, because you can't have two forward passes in a play. And so that's why we had to, because we didn't want to take the chance of them calling it forward. Yeah. See, that's what I thought. And I wish we would trust the guys enough to Hendon can still throw it backwards and Princeton just goes back a couple steps further, because I think it is such a tip off.
It is, yes, but it is very hard to not tip it off the other way. Like if your wide receiver's 7 yards back.
I'm not saying at the jump. I'm not talking about before the snap. I'm talking about after the snap.
Yeah. Yes. I agree with you. I think it's a dead giveaway when you go under center like that. I think
it would even be better if we ran some pistol, but
out of the pistol possibly. But what I think is they should have gone under center before that play and did a random fucking run.
Yes.
throw or something like that, where they're like, oh,
building up
to it, set up for later, which a lot of teams do that people don't realize is like you're running plays to literally set up for later, where you play action off of the run you already did in the first quarter, and they think it's the same run, and then you hit them on a deep ball. So it's like that nuance throughout the game you can take advantage of. We talked about the fourth down rollout where he just honestly should have thrown a jump ball to Tillman on that. He just overthrew everybody and threw it out of the back of the end zone. And it's like, dude, it's fourth down. It's the last. I mean, you're turning the ball over. Just give him a chance. If it's intercepted, okay. It's honestly better because they're 10 yards behind where they would be. So just give them a chance while you're out there. There was a counter play later in the game, I think third quarter, where it was a quarterback counter. Hendon hesitated. The backside defensive end came and tackled him before he got anywhere. I think we converted on the fourth down, though, with a slant to Cedric, but I can't be sure. In that play, I understood what they were doing. I understood why they were doing it, how they were trying to set it up. On a counter, you kind of have to fake one way, then go the other. But it's like, hey, let's throw in a play fake to slow it down to go the other way. There was nothing holding that backside defensive end there. Absolutely nothing. There was no reason for him to stop. There's no reason for him to hesitate. As soon as he came off the ball, nobody blocked him, and he knew, all right, I'm just going to the quarterback. And it's like you have to have something there to stall him, to slow him down, to make him think twice, which is some kind of sweep, some kind of motion with a wide receiver or running back coming across, and you fake it to him, slows that guy down, and then you take off, which is what we did with Dobbs a ton, where every Dobbs run had this option where he could hand it off to somebody, or option where he could throw it to somebody, or just something to hold the defense accountable, where they're not just pin their ears back and can come up and hit him, which is what happened on that third down. So I know I'm nitpicking things at this point, but that's just stuff that can make plays better. Like, we can work off of that. It can make the double pass better if Hyatt goes up with two hands and reaches for the ball. It can make that counter better if there is some kind of play action going the opposite way to hold that backside defensive end. Just little things like that can really make a difference in your play calling, in the yards you're gaining, and the momentum of an entire game. So, I mean, that's why I'm calling it out. But other things, late sack that we had, just on Spraggins again. I mean, can call this guy out for a bunch of sacks. I mean, there was one sack on Darnell, which I literally don't know what he was doing on the play. He also had a holding that was very bad. It was almost his intention to hold. That's what it looked like. But Spraggins on a play, I don't understand what some of the guys are looking at, especially when you go from the, behind copy where you can see where they're looking. It's like, this is your linebacker on your side that you're supposed to pick up, and he comes on a blitz and you don't see him. Like, you don't even know he's coming. I don't as a lineman who went through that, who played guard, played tackle, who had to go to all these meetings, who had to take tests every week, who had to write down play formations, play calls, like blocking schemes of every single position. My head goes to why don't you have your eyes on that linebacker? Why is that not your first thought when you're in your pass pro to say, I have center help coming towards me. I don't have to put both hands into this down lineman. I can look and see if this linebacker or another blitzer is coming. That's what drives me crazy, and I don't understand what's going through their heads, which is like, I wish I was in a meeting. Like, it would kill to be in a meeting.
You don't think it's on Coach Ellerby though, do you? Like you think it's probably more of the players because it's hard to believe me. It's hard for me to believe sometimes that some of these coaches aren't saying at least some of these different things, unless they're just horrendous.
I have to think they are.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like with the amount of experience they have and how long they've been coaching, it's like if I can see it, and I never coached in football before. I just played football for 16 years. And I see it. Like they have to. They have to see that. They have to see that coaching point and tell Spraggins, like, where are your eyes? And even on that same play, I was looking at Carvin on the opposite side. Running back is coming to his side. Like running back has his side of linebackers. Carvin doesn't have to worry about any kind of linebackers on his side. And he's still looking at them. And in my head, I'm like, why in the hell are you looking at him? You're wasting your time. You're not doing anything because you're looking at guys the running back is responsible for. So what you should be looking at is the nose tackle that's over the center or the defensive end that's over your tackle and going to help either one of them. But to set back and look straight ahead at linebackers that aren't even your responsibility is dumb. Like, don't bother yourself with that. Find work. If you're sitting there doing nothing, you're wrong on the play. Even if, like, oh, yeah, it's not my man. Technically, it's the center's man. Technically, it's the tackle's man. But if you did nothing on the play, you're wrong. You should always be hunting for something to do, hunting for a head to hit, hunting for some kidneys and ribs, man. I need ribs. Baby back ribs, baby.
Chili's baby back ribs.
With barbecue sauce.
I just thought
what I need. And like it didn't happen on that play. And that's why I want to be in the meetings where it's like, what are the coaching points? Like, who is telling them, hey, you should be doing this? Or are they even saying anything? Like, honestly, you could go through a meeting and be more worried about what Spraggins did on the play than Carvin and not say anything, and then it's never corrected. And it's like, please, I really would love to be in a meeting with those coaches. Like you had said earlier in the year where like you would love to be in a DB meeting when those double passes were happening versus us and to see what the coaching points were and how they're trying to defend it. I'm the exact same way when I see some of the offensive lineman plays. I'm like, what is going through your head? What are you thinking in this moment?
I for right now, for what I've seen, I would say it's probably maybe a mixture. But I would say if I had to lean one way, like I'm going to trust the coach on this one and think that it's just the players, that they're just making some, mental mistakes, just making some different errors. It can be quick, man. You step one way the wrong way, you place your hand one way, and your eyes aren't in the right way. People don't understand how important eyes are in football. Like, people can joke about Bill Belichick up there on their parade, and he's just like, do your job. But it is, man. Do your job. Just read your keys, and do what the coaches are asking of you. And that's half the battle. Then just execute it. I also can't stop thinking a fat bastard and Austin Powers walking in. He's like, that's a baby. he's
Why are you thinking about that?
Because of the baby back ribs part.
Oh, yes.
What is he saying that again?
He's like, he comes in, he's like, oh, you're a little baby. I want you to get in my belly. I'm the top of the food chain.
I love that one. He says something about the ribs, though, doesn't he do that?
No, he does. He starts singing it. He definitely does. He's like, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. Ribs. I want my baby back, baby back, baby. Chili's baby back ribs with barbecue sauce.
Bro, I hope these listeners so it's so funny when you talk about Austin Powers. Some people are like, "Oh, it's amazing," and other people are like, "That movie's so stupid and stuff." I don't like Dumb and Dumber. I do think that movie's dumb, but I think Austin Powers is just a comedic classic. Like, I think it's unbelievable. Anyways, back on topic. Let me jump in here on some offensive stuff. First thing, I watched that first drive. And as I told you going into the game, I was just like, I was excited to watch us play, but I thought it was going to be a 41-17, 20 game. And I didn't think we were really, going to be able to have a chance to compete. I thought we would struggle really offensive line and stuff like that. And then we go down and we do what we do on the first play or the first drive. Now, I don't know how you are or other fans are, but in sports, when my team misses something that is a score, whether it is a wide open deep shot like we've had this year, whether it's I'm watching golf and a guy just misses a tap in putt that is going to come back to get him, when a team misses a PAT, when we're playing basketball and a guy misses a wide open putback and it's 45 seconds left in the game and it's a nail biter versus Kentucky, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about that. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. And that's the type of plays that weirdly, they bother me, and they will bother me throughout the entire game and throughout the entire week if we lose, if we don't make up for it. So this sounds weird to say, but if we had not scored on that first drive, it would have eaten me alive. So the fact that we were able to compose ourselves and drive down, I was like, oh, thank gosh. Like, we could have literally –
that's literally the only reason I didn't mention that play is because we ended up scoring.
Right. And so for me, it was like we could have punted and got a pick six. Not matter. I still would have been like, well, we should have scored and had the pick six. Like, I have to have it on the same possession. So, I just offensively, like, I mean, I'm watching it and then I get a text after we scored for some buzzing, like, dang, that looked easy. I'm like, yeah. And it looked easy because we didn't just hit a deep shot and score, and kind of like it could have been some fool's gold because we just a missed assignment. We scored. No, we ran it. We dinked and dunked. We took some deep shots. We had play action. We had quarterback runs. I'm like, all right, this is awesome. So then I'm like, okay, when I played sports, or whether it doesn't matter what sport it is, and I was going into the game knowing that my team wasn't as good and that we were playing someone that is better. And I'm thinking, how does that affect you mentally? And then also when I knew we were going to go in and absolutely just wreck someone. And I'm like, and how that feels. And so I'm thinking, I'm like, did that happen last night? Or did we just not execute? Or did we kind of come in and hit them in the mouth, and then it took them some time to settle in, and then they're like, okay, we're fine. Like, we're Georgia, we're going to do what we do. And were we like, oh, wow, we can kind of play with these guys, and then we're like, oh, no, we can't. And so that's the whole mental thing. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I wish I had an answer. I don't yet. Like, I don't really know, even after rewatching the game, like, what happened. The only thing I can really say is, like you mentioned it was Hendon's worst game that we've seen him play. And I really wanted to be able to give an answer to some of the people that had texted back or tweeted back on that tweet that I sent out. And honestly, Kyler, like, we were never going to win the game, but I really do feel like it was more Tennessee than Georgia on some of the things.
Yeah.
Some of it. And so, like you said early on in the podcast, like I kind of thought they're just going to come out and smother us, and it's going to be really tough to move the ball, really tough to run, all this different stuff. But like after that first drive, like, I'm not going to say I got excited, but your boy got excited. Like, I was like, all right, let's get in this thing. I'm sitting here thinking, like, what if we've really beat the number one team in the nation? What if Georgia really Georgia? It's like, I'm going to just poop everywhere, like all over Knoxville, just running around, just spraying. I'm like, I'll be so excited.
I tweeted out the little SpongeBob meme where he's like leaning forward, like, like, we have the number one defense. Like, that kind of meme where it's like, yeah, big deal. You have like, we just went 75 yards and a touchdown on your ass.
Right. And then I thought about it. And a game where you lose by 20 or 30 points, it's tough to say, hey, a game came down to 4, 5, 6 plays. But in sports, we all know you can literally look at 4, 5, 6, 7 plays at times in any sport that really changed the game. And I'm going to say we had 4, 5, 6 plays that really kept it from us having a fourth quarter game, not from winning the game, but from just keeping it a little bit more interesting. And so for me, it was a couple of those. So I'm going to kind of run through some of the stuff I've written down, and then we'll get to some of the plays. I was watching the game, rewatching it, not watching it, but rewatching it. I'm like, you know what? What the hell are they doing playing so deep? Like, why are the slots so deep? I'm like, why are we not taking advantage of this? Like, we can hit 1, 2, 3-step slants. And if you get it to a guy like Velus Jones, like, he could house call that potentially. And like, I know I can't stand Gary Danielson. I could never stand him or Vern Lundquist. But right now, I'm in the middle of going back and watching some games because I have an argument, or there's an argument going on between some of my friends, like who's better, Hooker or Dobbs. And so I want to go back and rewatch some of this stuff. And I'm watching the 2015 Florida game, and I just can't stand Gary Danielson or Vern. They always mess up players, who it was. They say dumb stuff. And then last night, Gary was saying the same stupid stuff. It amazes me that he still has his job with CBS. Brad Nessler's the other guy. I think he does fine. I don't mind Brad. But anyway, sorry, I just can't stand them. But Gary did say, he's like, wow, look at how much they're giving them, how much respect they're giving them. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off. I'm like, Reed, you just said this last pod. You just said you can't believe that none of these teams are taking the great slot shot away. That's what Kirby was doing. Kirby was taking the great slot shot away. He said, we are going to keep everything in front of us. And if this Tennessee defense or this Tennessee offense is that good, well, guess what? They're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to drive down the length of the field because we are going to keep everything in front because we are more talented and we're going to make the tackles when we're supposed to. And that's exactly what he did. Not only did he have his slots playing at almost safety depths, he had his safeties back a couple times looking like they were about to catch punts. And I was like, I don't know why it didn't hit me when I was watching the game. Still, though, we can still make adjustments to that. And guess what? Heupel did start doing some adjustments to that. He said, okay, you're going to start doing that. I'm going to start hitting some just hitches. And then the hitch pick came, and that was obviously one of the plays that really crushed us. Last night when I sent the tweet out, I'm like, man, we kept it close for like the first quarter. No, bro, like that. I knew that. And then I just like get in my emotions and get my feels. And I go back, I'm like, this game was still a game in the third quarter. Like, I mean,
we came out of half. Our defense 3 and out of them.
I agreed.
We were down 14, and we got the ball back immediately.
Right, and we took the shot to Ramel Keaton, which I thought Hendon made a good ball because he put more air under it, and Ramel just didn't make the play. Like, you got to run under that, or you got to dive and catch that. Like, when I say you got to make those plays, and you're going to hear me when I go through some of these, I'm not being nitpicky towards Ramel Keaton. I like Ramel Keaton. Like, I think he's pretty good. I think he'll be fine for us, just like I think a lot of the other young receivers we have. But we are nitpicking when you're a 3-touchdown underdog. Those are the plays you have to make to have a special Saturday. That's just how it is. So we're not nitpicking him saying he should have made the catch because that would have been a tough catch. He had to lay out for it. But if you want to win this game, you got to make those plays. And so, it's just there was a couple that I when they were playing so deep on that Velus really had. I mean, it would have been the easiest slant completion to get the ball in one of our best players' hands in the open field. Luckily, it was where Cedric Tillman mossed the guy, and there was the fighting back and forth. And Gary was like, "Oh, that could be offense. Look how he pushed away." And I'm like, "No, they're just hand fighting." And he had to push off to get the guy from stop holding him. Yeah. And so, but anyways, we still, whatever. So, to start early, you talked about the 3rd and 5 play where it was the shovel or the throw out. I like that. Darnell and Carvin had a really nice block on a couple of those runs. It cracks me up, and these are going through my notes, how quarterback friendly this offense is. Like when we take our shots, like the Titans did, or what the Titans or run teams do, when they'll be running it, and all of a sudden they go and they fake that stick in the belly and they turn and they look deep and there's one guy running. And if you hit it, great. If not, then you're either throwing it away or like maybe dinking it to a little play, like a little tight end that just leaked out. But that's the main shot. If it's there, you take it. If not, it's not. We do those. And that's the one that we did earlier in the game. You say hi, the 2 receivers on the right side, they don't even move, bro. They're just chilling. They're getting their rest. and we have one guy streaking deep. And we threw it and it wasn't complete. I think that's when we got the pass interference in the end zone on Georgia. And it's hilarious. Like, it's so weird to me, but like, it's just so quarterback friendly. It's like, there's one guy there. If it's there, throw it. If not, don't worry about it. And like, I like that because he's going to make quarterbacks look a lot better than they are sometimes.
There's not a lot to think about.
Correct. And so when we get correct, it's almost with this offense, you just got to make the throws because he's not making you read a bunch of stuff. Like, you might read more in the actual run game with the read option and some of those little read, like, can I run this or am I going to throw it out real quick? Like, it's just such a quarterback-friendly offense. So when he does get a dog quarterback, and I'm not saying Hendon's not, but I'm saying, like, maybe I think Hendon's pretty good. I think he maybe makes him look better than he is. And so I'm big on numbers lately. So Hendon might be, an 85? Well, what happens when we get a 95 quarterback in there overall? And you're like, then what's going to happen? So it's impressive. It impresses me how well he does on that. We already talked about loving the play call. Let's see. Just running through some of these different offensive stuff. The one thing that I'm shocked that you did not mention, matter of fact, I'm like, you want to talk about Jalen Hyatt going up and catching the ball. I'm like, this man didn't even talk about the third one or the second one, the third one that we didn't get early in the game. And that really, like, it was kind of like the pit spot where Cedric Tillman catches it and he leans forward. He easily gets it.
Yeah.
And it's a bad spot, and we don't either challenge it or we don't, like, clip a timeout so they have to relook at it or whatever. But then in the moment, you're like, it's okay. It's 1 yard. We'll get it. It's 1 yard. We'll get it. No big deal. Well, you might not because Georgia's really good or someone just wins a one-on-one battle. And so we run it. And then I don't ever want to be the hindsight 2020 because I have a lot of friends that are that way. And I'm like, no, shut up. Say it before they do it so that I know you're not just hindsight 2020. Most of the time, I'm like, if I have 3rd and 1, in my team, the Titans or the Vols, if it's 3rd and 1, I'm like, all right, run a read option. It's so hard to stop, so I'm usually cool with it. But that one, it looked like on the 3rd and 1, we handed off and we were running just fine. I'm being very nitpicky. It looked like maybe Jabari kind of stuttered a little bit, but he probably stuttered because a guy, the D tackle, went, shed it, and was sitting waiting on him. So he's just like, I don't really have anywhere to go. And then the next one, we run the read option, and Georgia just makes a really good play. And I don't want to be, like I said, the hindsight 2020, but there I would have loved to seen a quick game pass because they were playing off so much. And I do trust our passing offense, even though it came back to bite us yesterday with the pick. Like, I would rather us just throw a quick hitch or a quick slant or a quick out because I think we have a better matchup on the outside than we do on the inside because our offensive line is just who they are. Yeah. And so that was a drive that really just bothered me.
I thought on that play that you were talking about where Hendon got stuffed and he kept the ball, that he should have handed it off. And I think back to when Josh was our quarterback and he would be in the backfield, and on those short down and distances, he would say to me, like, Hurd and Alvin are better runners of the football than I am. Like, he believed that they're running backs for a reason. They're better at running the football. I'm a good passer, and I can run the football, and I'm athletic, but I believe that they are better runners. So in those situations, if the read isn't there, he is more than happy to give them the ball. And I think Hendon in certain times is like, well, let me take this, and isn't necessarily listening to what the defense is giving him. He's like, let me take this and stuff forward and try and make that first down, where I think he just should have handed it off to Jabari. Because when I think about it, I love Hendon. I love that he's athletic. I love that he can make plays with his feet. But if I were to say who's a better runner of the football, I'm going to say Jabari Small. Jabari knows how to squeeze through those gaps, knows how to get those yards. He's a better cut. He has better cut to him. He's better understanding of blocking schemes and where he needs to fit. So I'm going to say, if I'm running for a first down on 1 yard play, I want my running back to have the ball. So I think that's just something that Hooker has to put.
See, I disagree with you. I just want to do what the defense is telling you. That's what I want. That's how plays are designed. Like, because Kyler, I could go back and say, well, you got your running back to get the ball against Pitt, and it didn't work out because Hendon should have kept it. The guy crashed down super hard. So I just want the play to be run how it's supposed to be played. I
am agreeing with you 100%.
Okay.
I think that Hendon in that moment thought, I can make this first down no matter what the read is.
Okay. Well, let me say this.
That I can do a better job than Jabari can because Jabari didn't get the first down on the last play.
Sure. And that might
affect your opinion when you're playing the game.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. Because I heard coaches say it all the time, and I know you did too. If you don't do your assignment and you kind of go rogue, that's okay if one thing, you make the play. That's it. If you go rogue, if you shoot a different gap, or if you fill an alley that you're not, you just make the play. And they'll say it. So, like, what happens. Like, if I filled the wrong gap because I thought I could shoot through the back, well, I know if I make the play, all right, kudos, everyone's happy. And if I don't, then I have a right, then he has a right to come at me because I took a gamble. Like, and so I just don't like when people predetermine stuff. Like, maybe if he let his gut, he let his gut determine what happened and he was still reading the play and he just made a bad read. Okay, but don't predetermine it, like, because it's never going to work out. I mean, JG Bama, like 2 years ago, I mean, you just play. These coaches are designing these plays for a reason. Yeah. So anyways,
with him,
I just, and I'll say this, I'm usually a kick the field goal guy. I was very happy with the going for it when I guess it was 17-10 or 24-10. I mean, I'm happy with that. Fine. Like, we're against the number one team. We're not supposed to win. Don't kick the field goal. What the hell is the field goal going to do for us? It's not, and usually I'm the opposite. If that game, was against Ole Miss or Pitt or, Kentucky, I want the points. But I was happy with that. I'm going to tell you right now, though, this is the second time this year that I've yelled out loud to Heupel. The first time was back when we were killing, I guess it was Missouri. Our players were still in the game, and I wasn't happy about it. I hate. Sorry, everyone. My camera just dropped. I hate that play so much. I hate it in high school football. I hate it in college football. I hate it in NFL football. And I do not know why that people have started doing it for the past 3 or 4 years. And these losers still do it. I felt like 2 or 3 years ago on Saturday or Sunday, I saw that play at least 3 or 4 times on either 2-point conversions, 4th and 1s, 3rd and 3s. And I know you're saying what play? The 4th and 4 play. And I can tell everyone what it is. You either roll to the right or roll to the left. And what it is you have your outside guy come in and run a slant. And if it's against zone, he sits. And you have your inside guy, your third inside guy, he just runs the little like out route to the pylon or to the sticks. And you have your middle receiver go like kind of like a corner route in the end zone. Everyone in America does it, and I hate it. And I'm going to tell you this. You guys are going to laugh at me and think it's funny, and that's fine because it is kind of a joke. The only team that ever ran that successfully, and the only reason I never said anything about it is because we kept doing it, was my championship-winning intramural team. No, well, flag. Hold on. Not intramural because I was out of college. It was men's league flag football in Nashville where we were dogging out. But I'm not joking that is literally the only time I've ever seen that play work. We called it money. And we used it on all of our 2-point conversions or in the red zone. It worked every time, and that's because it's flag football against a bunch of jabronis, not really good defenses. Because I'm going to explain to people, if you're good at football and you know what you're doing, that is one of the easiest plays to stop. Because when I play defense and we saw that play coming, I loved it. If I was at a corner spot, it's great because your guy's coming in, you squeeze him down, you pass him off. And then you can jump a pick if they're dumb enough to throw the out route, okay? And then if you're playing linebacker and the play's coming, number one's coming in. So if they're going to try to throw a slant behind you, pick. If they're going to sit, then you sit on it. It's just a really easy play to stop. Now, I get it. Everyone's like, well, I like it. It gives you a couple options. Get your quarterback out on the boundary. Sometimes I don't like the quarterback out on the boundary because it condenses the field to where you only have half the field and half the options. And I hate that play. I've always hated it. I'm not just saying because it didn't work yesterday, and it pisses me off because I love Heupel. And I'm like, bro, you and I should both know that play sucked. Get it out of the playbook. What do you think about that play? Do you like?
Now that you've gone your rant, you're explaining the whole thing. You just said that you're looking back on Dobbs and his career. I want you to look back on 2015 Vols and see how many times we ran that play down towards the goal line and how many touchdowns we had with that kind of play. Because it happened a lot.
Well, now that you mention that, I do remember you guys running that, and I do remember it working pretty well. I don't recall being against stellar competition. I think maybe one of the better teams that you guys ran against that I remember was maybe like a South Carolina. I think you guys hit Kroom on it, maybe.
Alvin had 2 touchdowns versus Georgia with that play.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
It is. I understand what you're saying, and the route combination is easy to see. So
it's easy to see. It's easy to see and stop. It's easy to see and stop.
It's all about how you set up the play, because on those certain downs, we would have it to where Alvin starts in the backfield, motions up, then over, and gets right next to the tight end, and we snap the ball, and he's on an out route.
Yes, I do remember that. I do remember, and I like that better.
It is a rollout. It's exactly what we talked about. It is the flat. It is the corner. It is the sitting tight end. But depending on how you draw up the play, how you bring emotion into it, can really affect how the defense, defends it and what they think the play is going to be pre-snap.
Right.
Because that is something too.
Well, hold on. Let me say this. I do remember you guys running. And one thing I'll give Dobbs. Dobbs ran it great because if it was there early, he would get rid of it. And yesterday, it looked like Hendon could have got rid of it early, but I don't think he knew that if he got it rid of it early, we were not getting the first down, because if he got rid of it early, I don't know who was running that little out route, but he was still had 3 or 4 yards a gain. There was a guy sitting there. But I remember what Dobbs did so well with that is he would extend it to where he would roll so far. If it was being run to the right, he'd run so far to the right that tight end was sitting alone at that point because so many people were following along. And so he kind of throw it back body, which is a dangerous throw, but it worked out because it was sitting there. And so, yes, I get it. It can run pretty well at times, but I'll give you guys credit for running well. But I'm telling you, all the other footballs that all the other teams and all these other people that run it, I hate it. I don't think anyone else runs it well.
I will say this. I absolutely hate teams running it to the non-dominant side of the quarterback.
Or the short side of the field is ignorant.
It's like, okay, if you're on the right hash and the, short side of this field is to the right and you have the big side of the field to the left, and it's like, oh, that's the way to run it, but your quarterback is right-handed, come up with something else, please. Because you're putting your quarterback in a horrible situation where you're like, oh, you have the option to run and throw. No, they don't, because they have to put their body in a completely different position to throw the ball than they would trying to run it.
I'll give Heupel
credit. Where it's like that. It just doesn't make any sense to go to their non-dominant side.
I'll give Heupel credit, though. He did try to put a wrinkle into it, and he brought Jabari, who was on the left side of Hendon. He motioned him out to try to grab some attention. So I give him credit. He tried to throw a wrinkle in there. And the other thing is, too, it's like most of the time you would think that play would work better against man, unless you have a good defense and then they just pass off. And if you pass off, then it's pretty easy. Mm-hmm. I just hate that play. I feel like offensively, let me just hit a few more things. I liked how we competed offensively and battled. Like you said, execution just wasn't there. It was Hendon's worst game he's had with overthrows. That 3rd and 5 on the drive after the pick was almost as crucial as the pick itself, because we didn't get to keep any momentum. Like, there was a point in time there where, like I said, I went back and rewatched the game. It's like, this is only a 1 or 2 possession game up until halftime. And then if we score on that drive out of halftime after the defense did a good job of making stops, like we're still back in it because of how quick we can score. It just the execution wasn't there, and it just started just those little stabs, just death. I love Trent Dilfer, and he always has a saying that's death by 1,000 little razor cuts, and that's just kind of how it felt like. We just weren't hitting the shots, and every little time we had to trot out there to punt, we just kind of knew it was just slipping away. Let me see if there's anything else on here offensively I wanted to talk about. Is there anything else offensively you want to hit?
Not necessarily. I mean, I wanted to shout out Tillman for just being a fucking absolute baller and monster out on the field, because he really is, and it literally does not matter who's covering him.
I do have. I'm going through my notes. I do have a couple more things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Okay, first off, on the overthrow, when I first was watching it, I did think he overthrew it on the double slants, or threw it away. Excuse me. I'm like, all right, he threw it away. Like whatever. Like we'll live to play another down. And then when I went back and watched it, like I still don't know. I'm like maybe he did overthrow it, but it was very good in tight coverage. I still think that he could have thrown it low and away, which means where if Jalen Hyatt goes down and makes a catch, like he can catch it. Mm-hmm. And I did think it was there enough. It was there enough for me to say, give him a shot. Like, not where it's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? That's a terrible throw. There was still enough sliver there to give him a chance. So that was kind of a bummer. And then I'm going to give a shout out. I thought Princeton had some nice blocks. I saw Jacob have some other good blocks. And then Jacob, I don't know what he was doing. If we get to talk with him, I want to ask him. It was on that third and one that we were just talking about where they did the read option. He came in motion, and his guy made the tackle, but it looked like he kept leading out. So I don't know if he was supposed to kind of let that guy be the read option player. Yeah. And then
I think there's certain times.
I don't know if he was – sorry, someone was calling me, so it cut in and out. I don't know if he was the read option player. Yeah. Or if and he was like, all right, they're reading him. I'm going to continue out to be a lead blocker if Hendon does hold it, but we can ask him that at some point.
Yeah, because there are like we had plays like that where it's like the tight end, instead of leading up and being the lead blocker, you're going around for the quarterback run, not the running back run. So it's like, who are you blocking for in the certain play?
And that's what I think it might have been, but I would still like to ask him that.
Yeah, speaking of, we are going to try and have Jacob on.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, so it'd be a nice little surprise. But he reached. The reason we want to have him on is because he actually reached out to you about the shout out you gave him and some of the different stuff. And so, if some of the UT players are listening or some people are listening and telling them feedback, then maybe everyone else should start listening.
Yeah, no kidding. That's right. And
all right, let's get into defense.
Hey, listen, when we call you out and say this wasn't a good play, or we call you out and say this was a good play, take it with a grain of salt, man. Appreciate the good. Understand why we're saying what we're saying. In no way is it personal. I mean, I'm going to call out guys who don't perform well. And that's exactly what should happen in a meeting room. Like, other people in your position room should be like, hey, that was a bad play by you. What were you doing? How can you be better? And if we can do that overall as a team, you're going to be a better team.
Yeah. Well, I will say Tillman and Velas had a really nice block on one of those third and ones that we ended up running, and Jabari got it. They came in and they absolutely sealed the right side, because I was like, when I was watching the game, I'm like, all right, thank God we got the third and one. And I was like, that was a good block by the offensive line. Then I went back and rewatched. I'm like, geez, that was Cedric Tillman and Velas that were edging that right side. So they had some nice blocks. Princeton had some nice blocks. Like I said, Jacob had another nice one. Get into defense. Start talking. I want to hear what you got on defense.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking so when you tweeted out what you tweeted, that was the worst game. It got me thinking, who's he talking about? What's he talking about? All that kind of stuff. When you look at this defense, what are your expectations? As a fan, as someone watching, as a former player, as a player on the team, what are your expectations of the defense? Mine are to get a few stops, maybe a turnover, have the offense you're playing against struggle, at least, and blow up when you have to. You're not going to do it all the time. You're not going to be an elite defense. You lost a lot of guys on defense, and it's going to be tough for you. So just give me something. And that's what this defense did. Again, they played better this game than they did versus Kentucky. Bar none. I think for sure they played better this game than they did versus Kentucky. They had 5 punts, five different drives ended in punts. They had 2 drives ended in field goals instead of touchdowns. And they stopped them when they needed to. Like I mentioned, after halftime, huge moment. We're down 14. We could go down 21 after the halftime. And they stop them 3 and out. Sacked by Byron Young to finish that drive. And we get the ball back. I mean, that's a huge moment for that defense. I'm very happy with what they've been able to do with how little they have. I mean, really how little they have. As we go through it, certain plays, I mean, I could talk about things that I didn't like. Bennett running whenever he wanted to. The fact that we literally called a QB spy with Flowers coming up from a safety position to spy on Bennett, and he still got juked out by the guy. I don't know what else you want Tim Banks to do. He's putting the safety on the quarterback. You think he's going to make that kind of play, and he doesn't. I think, let's see. I mean, we forced Georgia 5 of 12 on third down. I'll take that. Out of our defense, I will take that every Saturday. 5 of 12 on third down, thank you. Like, that is so much, like, that is better than I expected, for sure. I think there was certain things to shout out, like Beasley. There was 2 plays I saw Beasley absolutely crush the guards of Georgia. I mean, put them on their asses.
Dude.
Where they tried to come and block him, and he just stuffed him right in the chest and put him straight down. One ended up making the tackle because the guy hit the running backs in the legs. There was another one later in the game where he literally just lifted dude off the ground and put him on his face, and it's like, Beasley's 220 pounds. Like, that's not supposed to happen. So, shout out to that. Like, I'm sorry. Holy crap.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got fired up when I saw that. Like, he literally made a tackle by absolutely body bagging a massive guard offensive lineman to where he falls and trips his own guy. And Beasley just stands there and acts like it was no big deal. If that had been me, and I will say on later in the game when he did it again, he started jawing to the defensive lineman or to the offensive lineman. It's probably because we were kind of starting to lose. And he's like, hey, we might be losing, but I just got your ass bad. And so it's like, it was pretty doggish, bro. Like, it was seriously, like, it was kudos, a hat tip to him on that.
No kidding. It really was. Like, I would be all up in that dude's face if I did that to him. Teaching point wise, things that I didn't like. It might have been the first or second drive. We had the third down blitz. It was third and long. Corner came off the edge. It was Burrell.
He didn't stay outside.
Him and Byron both got blocked by the freaking left tackle. And it's such like y'all, you're supposed to, like, Byron, go inside. What are you doing rushing this guy? Burrell, go outside. There's no way that Bennett should be able to roll out towards the blitz and be able to rush for a first down.
I actually think, watching back, Byron was supposed to go outside, open up the inside for the slot corner blitz or for the corner blitz, and he beat his guy, and he's like, well, I can step inside. That was the most frustrating thing because as a player who used to come on blitzes from that exact area, I was always told, you stay as deep as the quarterback's outside shoulder. You stay as deep and attack that so that he doesn't, guess what, get outside of you. So, yes, as being coached that, I was like, what the fuck are we doing? It was that one was painful. That one was painful.
Painful to watch.
And there was a couple other ones I'm going to talk about too that were just as painful.
I blocked that before. Like, I know how it's supposed to look, and it's just, guys, like, somebody has to be contained, and I don't think certain linemen, defense and offense, realize how they set up stuff for people behind them. Like, offensive linemen, you cannot confuse the running back behind you in pass pro. You have to pick up your guy or go towards your protection. There are times where guys set back and they look like they're going to pick up who the running back's responsibility is, and then they leave. And the running back gets confused, and he's like, oh, I thought you were going to get him. You're just making it worse on your team. And it's the same thing for defensive linemen. Like, he confused Burrell by playing it that way, where Warren goes, wait, am I doing the wrong thing? Like, did I mess up on this play? So, like, do what you said earlier. Do your job. Do what you're supposed to do, and everything will work out fine. But you have to do what you're supposed to do. Do not freelance. Do not think, hey, well, if I do it this way, then maybe I'll set up this guy a little bit better. Da, da, da. Like, if you have not communicated that with whoever you're working with, don't fucking do it. Because it's the same thing as an offensive, like, setting back and be like, oh, I'll set up this guy for the running back to block. No, unless you haven't talked to him about that and he understands what you're doing, you just confuse the hell out of him. So, drives me crazy when that kind of stuff happens. What else? The Bennett throws when he's literally getting sacked and he just throws it away, and it drives me crazy because Bennett can be getting tackled and throw it away, and it's a legal throw, while Matt Corral can be getting tackled and fumble, and it's not a fumble, it's down by contact. And then Hendon Hooker can be getting sacked and flipped around the guy, then fumbles, and it's a fumble. I'm just pissed there's no consistency. Absolutely none. Make it all the same, or don't call it at all. It just drives me up the fucking wall that Bennett can do this, Corral can do this, Hendon can do this, and it's all different fucking plays. It makes absolutely no sense. Why are the refs even out there? They're missing calls, like you mentioned earlier with that first down we should have had. They're missing face masks. They're missing holding calls. They're not calling those plays consistently. It's like, why in the hell even have them out there? They're not doing anything.
Three or four F-bombs by Big Kyler.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm fired up.
I was going to say we don't get this off. I don't know if I've heard you say 3 F-bombs in the past 3 years, but
that kind of stuff drives me crazy, dude. I mean, there were so many times when I played that, like, guys would punch me in the face as an offensive lineman. Guys would punch me in the face. The ref would watch them do it and say, whoa, guys. Whoa. Okay, calm down. Like, no, calm down. Call a damn penalty. He hit me in the face. It's a 15-yarder. Give us the yards. He did something that he's not allowed to do. I did my job, and I didn't do anything illegal. Call him on his BS and give me the yards. Why in the hell are you even out here if you're not to hold everybody accountable?
Yeah, I remember you telling me the story. I guess it was when we played Oklahoma, and guys did something wrong, and he comes up. I think it's that same one you're talking about. And then the ref comes up to you, and he's like, "Hey, I like how you play. I respect you're, a really good player, and I'm just allowing it to, y'all to play." And he goes, "Man, you seem like a cool guy." He goes, "I'd love to have a beer and go fishing with you." And you're like, then you told me when you were saying all that, you're like, "I don't give an F, bro. Like, throw the flag. Like, you saw him hit me. Like, what are you doing?" Yeah. So it's like he decided he wanted to let the boys play, but you don't let the boys play when someone's throwing punches. You let the boys play when everyone's getting a little grabby and a little handsy and a little holdy sometimes, but not when someone's throwing a punch or hands to the face.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I was like, I'm not your damn friend, dude. Like, yeah, I'm never going to talk to you again. Please just call the damn penalty.
Yeah. He was just trying to be the cool guy.
Yeah, screw that. I don't want to be a friend with a fucking 45-year-old ref. What?
All right. I will disagree with you, though, on one of those plays. The one where Beasley shot in and had him, and it would have been like a daggum 15 or 12, 15, 10-yard loss, and he threw it away. Like, I thought that could have been intentional grounding. But the one where they showed the replay and he switches hands and throws it to the feet of the running back, that was a hell of a play, man.
I'm not saying that's not a good play by Bennett. I think it's an amazing play by Bennett. But I want consistency. I want there to be a time period where where the quarterback is wrapped up that says you are down or you are not down.
So you're just more mad about the Matt Corral one.
Yeah, and and how a Hendon sack later in the game also plays into it.
Yeah,
Forward momentum. You could say he's down way before he rolls over the top of the guy, then fumbles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's absolute no consistency, and it's all in 2 games of the same team, like our games.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So that's what.
All right, let me jump into some defense while you take a little sip of your drink over there and cool off a little bit. So defensively, I really thought I got really frustrated as a game watcher yesterday and a fan watcher compared to going back and watching the film. Now, after watching the film, I'm still very disappointed because this is 2 weeks in a row where Tank McCullough, a.k.a. Jalen McCullough, and Trey Flowers are just not giving us hardly anything from what I can see. Now, I'm not in the film room and I'm not watching film, and maybe they had some good coverage on the back end because, we could be sitting in that dark, cold room, hands in our shirts, and Martinez is like, hey, good job here, Trey. Like, you got over the top, good play, way to take that away. Or, hey, Tank, way to come up, take this play away. Okay, so I'm not saying that there's not other good stuff. I'm just saying what I see and the bad angles and the missed tackles and the fact that, like Tim Banks, like you said, and I'll even bring the Bammer, Jeremy Pruitt, into this conversation. I was arguing with my buddies when we lost to Georgia State, and they're like, that's on Pruitt, that's on Pruitt. I said, guys, that is ultimately his job because he's the head coach. I said, but when it's 3rd and 12, and everyone wanted to make fun of him because he did that way overload, like Rex Ryan's type defense, and became a scream grab on Twitter. And everyone's like, oh, look at this idiot, thinks he knows defense. But he did the overload blitz and was bringing it from that one side and then dialed up on the right side where he gets Darrell Taylor, one of arguably maybe our best player on defense at that time, who ended up being a 2nd-round draft pick, who is playing good in the NFL right now. He gets him one-on-one with a Georgia State quarterback in 3rd and 12. You would think 100 out of 100 times, like, all right, great, that's what we want. Darrell Taylor will make the play, and the other guy made the play, scrambled out of it. Everyone would be like, Pruitt, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, you overload one side. Like, no, like, I actually do love those overload blitzes that Rex Ryan and some of those Ravens and even the Steelers would do sometimes from time to time. And John Chavis had the prowler back in the day where you kind of walk around and then you all come. Like, I like some of those stuff in passing downs. Well, yesterday, last night, like you said, Tim Banks has Trey freaking Flowers, a safety, against Stetson Bennett in the one-on-one. Now, we all know one-on-one in the open field tackles are very difficult, very, very difficult. But you design that to where you really like your matchup. So Trey has to be better. He has to make that play. That's where we have to recruit some Eric Berries and some I like Jansen Jackson. He was a wild card back there, but he was an athlete and he was a good player. And
hey, buddy likes to smoke a lot of weed, but he still played a hell of a football game.
Yeah. So that's where you got to get your Jonathan Hefney's or maybe Jabari Greer, if I'm thinking correctly, or your Jabril Wilson, Rashard Baker, Jason Allen.
If I'm on that team as an offensive lineman, if I'm on that team as a defensive lineman, and coach goes, hey, I'm about to put Flowers one-on-one with their quarterback, I'm like, hell yeah, all day, baby. I love that. Like, we got that all day. Like, that is a guaranteed tackle. Flowers got that boy. Like, no doubt in my mind. So then when he doesn't do it, you're like, what?
And it happened a couple other times. Like I said, the safety play has just been brutal in the run support and the open field tackling. And later in the game, when Stetson rolls out to the right and then steps up and he runs by Beasley, he runs by Barron, and then he's in the end zone. And I'm never going to question those guys' efforts. And I'm just saying, I wish I would have seen one of them dive, because when you watch, we got lucky. CBS replayed it from the back view, and it looked like Beasley could have just taken a swipe at his legs, or Tyler Barron was coming down, run the line. So he's giving good effort, but he didn't. It was one of those where you feel like, I don't have to dive because someone else is going to come up and get him, and then someone else doesn't come up and get him. But just that was
a lot on defense.
And so, it does. And so that one was just brutal to see. But you're so right that after I go back and watch, like, this defense played certainly well enough to keep us in the game with the forced punts, with, like you said, the turnover on downs and forcing the punts, holding to field goals, all that stuff, bro. Like, they played definitely well enough, even with some of the poor tackling, some of the poor alignment and angles and whatever. Like, they still did their ultimate job when you look at it from a whole. It cracked me up because I was pissed when I was watching the game that Braxton Brooks, or Peyton Brooks, our punter, he kind of didn't have a good punt. And I was like, well, thank God Matthew Butler absolutely did Matthew Butler things, used his hands, got back there, got a tackle in the backfield for a -7 or -8 yards. And then the next play, Omari Thomas does it. And I'm like, well, that's how we flipped our field position, not with the punt, but with the 2 tackles for a loss. So that was awesome to see. Once again, Caleb continues to give me 1 or 2 plays a game. I'm like, wow, great, hard, heavy hands, getting back there. And I also will say that now that I noticed that, like, these past 2 games, now granted, last week I was at a wedding and then was rewatching it while we were riding in the car. But Jay Blakely, like, he has been playing really, really good up to these past 2 games. I don't really remember him making plays. Like, Tyler Barron did fine a couple times in this game, but, like, he didn't really stick out. Roman Harrison hasn't really stuck out to me. And then Byron Young, like, did really well to come off and get steps and make some plays. And then you can't horse collar, like, dive at him, keep running. Like, it's tough to, that's super nitpicky.
And I think
because it's like,
I think he tried to do everything he could to make it not seem like a horse collar. Like, he brought himself into the tackle more and then fell to, like, try and, put a little shade of confusion on it. But also, it should have been 2 penalties by Stetson Bennett, intentional grounding and a face mask. So we should have backed them up if you're going to be honest about it. But
right. Well, and that was the play. That was the play that it was offsetting penalties. So what was annoying was they just had another chance to get it.
They replayed 3rd down because it was offsetting penalties. But really, it should have been intentional grounding and face mask on him, horse collar on us. You cancel out the face mask and the horse collar. You get the intentional grounding. It's now 4th down. They don't end up getting a first down because they ended up getting a first on that.
Yeah, and so that Byron play, I was like, man, if he makes that, then we keep him in the game. We keep us in the game. But I'm just been really impressed with our defensive line. The one long run that they had to answer to go 7-7, like, we didn't have 2 defensive tackles in the game, which I don't like that. We had 3. I think we had 3 down linemen and then 1 stand-up. So we kind of did our thing that we usually do, but the only person we had in the middle was Matthew Butler, and they blocked it unbelievable. Once again, Trey Flowers just gets smoked, and I'm like, I don't know if he had a bad angle. He's just slow. Warren Burrell's just standing over there, and I'm like, what happened, bro? Like, you see it. His eyes must have not been in the right position because that's the only thing I can – go ahead.
That running back just made Flowers look slow as shit.
Well, Warren Burrell was sitting there too, and the only thing I can think about is Warren Burrell had his eyes in the wrong place, and then he looks and he's like, oh, dang, he's equal with me, and now I can't catch him. So, I don't know what happened there, but that was just – there was a couple times, honestly, and once again, I say Gary sucks, but Gary Danielson did point this out pretty well. Like, there was just a couple times where football's a chess game, and sometimes you make the right play call when they make the wrong one. So it's like, there's times where a defense will call a blitz.
That first play they had.
That's what I'm saying.
Screen into our blitz.
Right.
Like,
and yes. And so that play, and not only did we blitz the slot, we blitzed the safety. Yeah. And so it's like they really thought that they were going to just do a run play, and we gambled. And so that's what it was. It's like, and there's plenty of times where a team, like what we did to Florida, they're blitzing, they're bringing the house, they're aggressive, and we throw a little dump right over their head, screen pass to Tyon Evans, and he house calls it. So that's just football. But, like, it happened last night more times than I can remember in the past couple games where it was like a screen behind a blitz or a run play to the right gaps or, a run play to how we're slanting. And just that's unfortunate. It just happens. Like when you're playing the number one team in the nation or a close game, like those are the plays that unfortunately happens. But, yeah, now that I went back and watched it overall, like, Jeremy Banks didn't give me much. The safeties didn't give me much. No, the corners got really beat deep. It was Banks that got – I think it was Banks or Solomon Page that got beat on that.
It was Page. Who got beat. And
I hate that. Everyone does
something
that
where it was like in the moments, like it's obviously going to him.
Correct.
Like, it is so obvious. Even the camera guys zoomed out to make sure and catch the route that this running back was about to run. Because if Gary Danielson can call out where the ball's going to go, then you better be able to freaking cover it. Okay? Like, how do you not realize that's exactly what they want in that moment as a defensive player?
Well, I just remember watching that all the time. You're watching NFL games and you're watching postseason games. And here's the Patriots and Tom Brady, and they just here goes little James White. And he goes out there, and the Ravens or the Steelers or the Titans or some other AFC team sends their linebacker out there, and they do a little slant and go, a little hitch and go, or they just run right by him, and they go there every time. So I hate that they put linebackers over there. If it was me and they did that, like I'm as a defensive player or as a defensive coach, I'm putting a safety over it every time. I don't care. I would rather drop. I'm not joking with people. I would rather drop Solomon Page back and let him play like a really deep linebacker, almost a safety spot, and let freaking Trey Flowers come over and guard it one-on-one. Honestly, like I'm just because football and offensive coaches and defensive coaches, they live for matchups like that. And sometimes one play and one matchup in a close game is all you need. And so,
I think a lot of times I don't understand cover one, which is man across the board, one safety deep.
I don't either because the safety really is not relevant.
He can't do anything. Like the only place he can cover is the middle of the field. And like
correct.
Anything on the edges, like he can't get there fast enough because he's looking at both sides. So then whichever one you go to, he's in the middle, then he has to react to which way you throw it. And it's like you're not
it's a wasted player. Yeah, it's a wasted player. And it's almost it's kind of a wasted player. Like, technically he's maybe still taking away like a post or he's there to make a tackle on a slant or he's there to make a tackle on like a tight end go route. But yes, when it comes to outside throws, he's worthless. Even the best safeties in the world can't cover that much ground, especially when a quarterback goes, look right, back left, look left. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, but yeah, overall defense was better as a whole. And competed overall better than I thought they did. I just was really pissed with our safeties, some of the linebacker play. Like I said, they got fortunate. And then they did, like you said, it was a good comp, like the Stetson Bennett with the Ryan Tannehill, like the Titans getting 3rd and 8. They just do a deep dig to A.J. Brown, and they did a deep dig to that one of their receivers. And then later in the game, it's like 3rd and 7. It's the exact same play. This time it's to a tight end, and we had decent coverage. It's just when you're behind him and on his hip, if it's a good throw, it's a good throw. Because we did what we tried to do. We tried to stop their run game and make Stetson Bennett beat us. And unfortunately, he beat us with his legs when we were trying to prevent him to beat us in the air because he had a bad 3rd down throw that sailed. He had another bad 3rd down where they just ran a little hook route and he just missed the guy. So those are the plays that I'm like, well, let me see how he does against Bama or another higher level team than us to see if Stetson Bennett can make the plays it needs to make. But overall, I'm going to tweet out here in just a minute, but like I do owe them an apology because it wasn't the worst coach. I swear I just said it was the worst coaching game I've seen all because of that 4th down play. Like I was just so pissed at that. But overall, like, it comes down to 5, 6, 7 plays that we did not make to keep us in a game against a team that is much, much, much deeper and more talented than us. Yeah. Someone asked me last night, they said, do you think any of our players on defense start for them? I said, I really don't know because I don't watch Georgia every every game or every play, but like I'm confident to say that Matthew Butler might not start, but he's definitely in the rotation, and that Byron Young is definitely in the rotation. But after those two guys, like I don't know anyone else that's really going to get PT over there.
I think Theo.
What?
I think Theo would.
Oh yeah, and and Theo. Yeah, Theo still played. Theo didn't have his big time plays yesterday, but he still made some really nice plays. He was in position well. So yeah, that's my fault for not saying Theo. And then offensively, I'm like, I don't know anybody. Maybe like Cade when he's playing well, and then maybe Hendon starts over Stetson, but like Stetson pretty much is what they need. Like, I mean, he does what they need.
The way they run their offense, I don't know if Hendon is really that valuable.
Correct. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe a couple of our receivers, but like the point, we get the point. Like, there's not many guys that you're going to trade for who they are. But anyways, I owe an apology. We went way long tonight. Next week we'll talk about South Alabama. We'll talk about some off-field stuff, whatever, because we're hoping that we go out and absolutely obliterate them, do what we're supposed to do. And let me end this on a positive note for me. South Alabama is a game that I don't have to worry about. In the years past with Butch or Dooley or Pruitt or whoever, like I might have to worry a little bit. But Heupel's giving me no reason to worry. When we go up against inferior talent, he body bags them like we're supposed to, and I have a nice, easy Saturday. Mm-hmm. So
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for a nice, easy Saturday. No stress in the household. Yeah, great pod. We did go a little long, but some people like it longer. So hope you guys enjoy it. As always, thank you for listening, for watching. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, comment, make some friends in those comments, possibly make some enemies in those comments. Still a good time for us. If you're listening on any platforms, please follow, download, rate if you can. It would just help us out tremendously. And if you want to reach out to us, phone number 865-322-9232 and email bleavintennesseefootball@gmail.com. Follow us on all our social medias. So we have at Kyler Curbison on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. At Believe in Tennessee on Twitter for our main account. At rbacon26 for Reed on Twitter. And yeah, just love the support. Appreciate you guys listening. Please let us know if there's any kind of topics you want us to touch on, because we definitely love the feedback as we're going forward. And I'm going to try and get some more guests on here. So hopefully you guys can hear from VFLs or guys that are on the team now and get their perspective on things. So that should be fun. As always, go Vols.